Hello, it's been a while since we've done one of these. I did plug in my mic today, so I hope that it's going to be better volume-wise than it has been sometimes. Hello, hello, hello. Okay, let's see what we've got. Okay. So first of all, I just want to thank my current patrons on Patreon. I've got their names up right here. Currently my patrons are Stacy, Eric, and Catherine. Thank you so much for supporting me on Patreon. If you want to learn how to join me on Patreon and support me, there's a link in the description to Patreon. That'd be really awesome. Thank you. Okay, now we're back to this. Okay, so today I wanted to talk a little bit about reflections on everything that's happened as I've been traveling some places and wonderful flights, and this wonderful book, Letters to a Young Catholic, that I was talking about on Twitter and Instagram a little bit, and a little bit on Snapchat, even though I'm not really on Snapchat. Hi, Brianna. Hello, hello. Okay, I'm gonna try not to spill my coffee. Yes, I made coffee, and it's the afternoon, but that's okay because there's always a good time for coffee. Okay. It's still really warm, but that's okay. So, first I wanted to talk about how life isn't always as easy as we think, and there's usually going to be something that makes life not easy. Yeah. Oh, hi Marcy. Hello. Oh, you just got back from Mass and are eating soup. That's okay. It's 5 a.m. somewhere. True story, Brianna. It's not 5 a.m. where I am. As some of you know, I've been moving and getting all settled in. This is my apartment that I'm in. Sometime maybe I'll give you guys a little tour of it on a video of some sort, because I didn't realize it when I was looking at it and when I was deciding to rent this apartment, but this apartment is actually kind of cruciform shaped, which made me really happy when I figured it out. I was like, yes! So it's an awesome apartment. Like, this is this one. Okay, this direction. This chair is one that we got used at a church garage sale a few years ago, and it is the most comfortable chair ever. My dad has like totally shampooed it multiple times, and it's very comfortable. That side. Okay. This backwards thing is going to mess me up a little bit when I'm trying to point to things, but yeah, it's a very comfortable chair. I love it, so I'm very happy I get it. So yeah, I know there's a lot of weird light coming in from that window, but I didn't want to pull it because then it gets really dark in here if I pull the shade, so I didn't. So anyway, life isn't always easy or simple or anything like that. I know we all know that because, hey, we're human. Yeah, we're human. So life isn't going to be easy for us, and that's the thing, that Jesus never told us life would be easy. He just said it would be hard sometimes. In fact, he told us it was going to be very hard. Some of the scriptures for daily masses this past week have been about how the week and a half, this week and last week some of them have been about how Christ didn't come to make us feel good about ourselves. He came to challenge us to reach heaven. And so that's what the homilists have been saying at daily masses where I go, and it's been really an interesting way to think about it. Christ didn't come to make us happy. He came to challenge us to see if we truly can love the way he wants us to love. Like, the whole world... Okay, how do I say this? Okay, Christ didn't come to give us a happy feeling. That's not what religion's about. That's not what the Catholic Church is about. Life isn't going to give you a happy feeling. The Church doesn't say it's going to give you a happy feeling to be Catholic. It's not always easy to be Catholic or Christian or anything, and Christ never said it would be easy. He said it was going to be hard and we were going to have a challenge, and that's what we're living in right now. I've been having a lot of crazy stuff going on. Some of you know I went to a conference for the USACV. I had an absolute blast there. It was a lot of fun. I met a lot of amazing people, and it was awesome, and I'm still processing everything from those talks because there was so much good information that was shared there, and so many amazing people that I met, that I'm just trying to make sure that I can process it all before I talk too much about it. Okay, try not to spill more coffee. Okay. Apparently when you make coffee right before you start to live stream, your coffee's a bit hot yet, and you also filled your cup up all the way, so you're trying not to spill. That's where I am right now. So things this last week that made life a little difficult. So on Tuesday, my vehicle was fine on the way to work. I came home for lunch, and then my vehicle wouldn't start. Yep, that's right. I went over to it to drive back to work after lunch, and the vehicle was dead. It wasn't the battery. I knew what it was as soon as it wouldn't start. It just clicked once, and I went, no! It was the starter. And I'm not talented enough to fix a starter on my own. Yeah, so it was my starter. So I still had to get back to work for the second half of the day, so I sent an email to the parish secretary because I, for some reason, did not have her cell phone number at the time. I do now. And I'm like, hey, I'm going to be running a little late because I have to walk back. So I walked my way back to the church. The thing is, I'm like halfway there and I go, oh, I should have ridden my bike. Like, I have my bike down here. So, yes. So I didn't. So yeah, anyway, I walked back and I got a ride back home because it was like over 100 degrees. It was crazy. And then on Wednesday and Thursday, I rode my bike to and from work for lunches too, to come back and forth. So I got a lot of exercise in. I'm pretty sure biking uses muscles that walking doesn't, because my legs really felt it. And on Thursday after work, I got a phone call that my vehicle was done, and it was amazing. Yes, it was expensive sometimes, but a starter's always going to be expensive. I had called my dad in between all of this and was like, my vehicle. My dad goes, just bang around on stuff until it works. I'm like, I don't think that's exactly how it works, Daddy. And then I'd break something even more. So my dad had warned me that it was probably going to be like a $200 to $300 range of cost for a new starter and all the labor, and that's what it was. So yeah, that was crazy. Oh, and then on Tuesday as well, or was it Wednesday? I think it was Tuesday. Before I got out to my vehicle and the starter didn't work, I was trying to put one of the drawers in my kitchen, and it came off the track and I got it stuck and I was having difficulties. That got fixed yesterday. So yes, it's just been crazy. Yeah, at work the priest was making fun of me for riding my bike. I'm like, Father, I like my bike. The bike I have had for years. I got it on sale, super cheap. I think Fleet and Farm. If anyone knows Wisconsin area, you'll know what I'm talking about, Fleet and Farm. It was on sale for like $50. I'm pretty sure it was a more expensive bike than that, but hey, it's not the greatest bike, but it works. It's a beach cruiser and it's purple. So I always loved it. Okay, Meraki, yes, I will be talking about the conference a bit more. I'm still in the process of trying to process all of everything that happened. I want to have a little bit more process time before I talk about it. I did talk a bit about it in the prophetic pep talk one, because that was some of the talks were about being a prophet. I have a lot of notes about the conference, but I just want to process some of that more before I really talk too much about it, because I'm still reading through the notes that I took and praying on it. Okay, so yes, Denise, we are not called to be happy, we're called to be holy. Very true, because that first day when I biked to work, because I like to go to daily mass if I can, and daily mass is before work starts. So I got to the church early. So as I'm like getting to the church, I parked my bike and then I had to walk up the stairs to the church. Let's just say that I almost fell down the stairs because my legs are that not used to biking. It was pretty funny though, but okay. Yes, Okay. Oh, Marcy, you wouldn't mind driving, but crazy drivers scare me. So many people get hit by cars here. I am very, very lucky. I live in a very, I moved to Oregon, if you know that, if anyone doesn't know this. I just moved in this city that I moved to is very, very bike friendly and very, very pedestrian friendly. So I knew, I wanted to avoid the main roads if I was taking my bike, so I had figured I took side roads. So it ended up being safe. I was being very careful and I wore my helmet just like my daddy always taught me to. Yep. Not everybody wears a helmet here, and that's just crazy because you need to wear your helmet. So anyway, yes. So life has been crazy this past week. All of that stuff happened. So I had my vehicle have issues, and then I had all of this stuff happen. Yeah, it's that hot in Oregon right now. They say it's not normal Like, I just moved here a few weeks ago, so I don't know for sure. Oh my gosh, it's been almost a month since I moved. It's been a month. Okay, strange. Okay. Yes, Oregon is decidedly liberal. Agreed. It has been getting warmer. We had about a week of where it was in like the upper 90s, low hundreds. Then we had the last few days, it's been in the 80s, which has been awesome. But for the next week and a half, as far out as the forecast looks, we're somewhere between 98 and like 104 is our highs going. So it's going to be a hot next 2 weeks probably. And I don't think we've had rain in quite a while. So there's always that. And then everyone's always like, oh, the state's on fire. I'm like, oh, that's nothing new. I was in Montana. The state's always on fire. But there's not much we can do to change that, really. So yes, that's been my craziness. Like, life has been decidedly not easy this week. When my vehicle wouldn't start, and I was just like, ah! The only thing I could think of was like, hey, Jesus, I married you. If I had married a solely human person, like, that man would be taking care of this right now. So this is on you. And then by the time I got back to the church, I already had talked to the secretary. We figured out who I could call, and it all got taken care of. So God really takes care of things, especially when you need things to be taken care of. And you say a prayer. It helps to pray while you're walking back to work after lunch. And then you remember your bike. So I'm very glad I had my bike. So the other thing I want to talk to you a little bit about today was this book. This is Letters to a Young Catholic by George Weigel. It's really awesome. I have a link to it in the description if you're interested in learning more about it. He doesn't just talk about Catholicism in it, though. He also visits some Orthodox places, which is really awesome. So the way this was set up is George Weigel is writing letters to a young Catholic. And by young, he means young adult, or anybody for that matter. He writes, there are, I think, 19 letters, and they go from different locations. So he picks a location and then talks about something related to it at that point. Like the first one, he starts in Baltimore, Maryland, and then he goes to the Basilica of St. Peter's in Rome. Then he goes to St. Catherine's Monastery on Mount Sinai, which is not a Catholic monastery. Those of you might know this, but it is the monastery where they have this icon at St. Catherine's, and it's Orthodox. It's really awesome. I love it too, Meraki. It was like my favorite. Anytime I was like getting like on the plane and not feeling so well, I'd just be like, oh, Jesus is on my book. It'll all be okay. So, okay, shift position. My leg was starting to fall asleep. Okay. So anyway, where was I? Oh yes, this book. So I have a lot of the first half of the book I read on my flight on the way there, and I read the second half while I was down in Florida. And I really, really love this book. I did not realize how much I was going to love this book until I got into it. It is amazing, and I recommend it to everybody because it's that good. So it starts out talking about what does it mean to be Catholic, and at one point, because the author George Weigel grew up in Maryland and Baltimore in a time when Catholicism was more culturalist. It was before Vatican II. There was a lot of cultural elements to Catholicism. So he moves through, we're starting with the cultural, and then we're going to go through basically almost the entire creed, kind of. He talks about being Catholic, the grittiness of Catholicism, what makes it human. Like, he talks about St. Peter's tomb and how the icons are a part of things. It is awesome. It's in English, William. I'm pretty sure there's probably a Spanish translation somewhere because it's pretty awesome. I can quick check that if you'd like. I don't know. I could check that, but I don't know exactly where to look for it at the moment. But yes, it's in English. It's an easy book to read. It's written to be really understandable, and it goes through all of the different things. Like, it starts, I'll tell you how easy it is to read. He has the little introduction. He goes, these letters are written to and for young Catholics and not so young Catholics, and indeed curious souls of any religious persuasion or none. Those who wonder what it means to be a Catholic in the 21st century and the third millennium. There are a lot of ways to explore the question. We could take a walk through the Catechism of the Catholic Church, reviewing the key points of Christian doctrine and thinking through the myriad of challenges of living a Catholic life today. We could ponder the lives of the saints, ancient and modern, and see what experiences they have to offer by way of example and inspiration. And he goes through, we could do all of this, but he goes, the more I think about it, though, the more it seems to me that the best way to explore the meaning of Catholicism is to take a tour of the Catholic world, or at least those parts of the Catholic world which have shaped my own understanding of the Church, its people, its teaching, and its way of life. And he goes on talking about how Catholicism is tangible. It's something that Catholicism isn't just something spiritual. It's something that has roots in the real world. It is very real, and that's, yeah, Meraki, it's totally about this one too. This icon is really a big part of his third letter when he goes to St. Catherine's Monastery and talks about this letter and how Jesus' face looks like there's two halves of his face. That if you look at the one side, you can see one expression. You look at the other side, and you can see a different expression. I'm really hard to do this in the review thing. So it's really an interesting part. When he was talking about the icon, I kept flipping back to look at the cover. It was really, really awesome to hear it described in ways that weren't so over the top. Sometimes it's hard to understand theology books. This is not a hard book to understand. At least I did not find it a hard book to understand at all. Okay, Marcy, your nephew came from Central California, from Los Angeles, and it was 105, 108. Oh my goodness, yes. I have friends down there, and they are saying it is very hot in LA right now. But, yeah, this book is just written in ways that is understandable. In the places he visits, he gives you a bit of the history as he goes through them, so that way you're getting kind of church history as well as doctrine all rolled up into one really easy-to-read book, really. It's not very complicated to get through. Sometimes he uses bigger words, but it's not very hard to read. I found it very easy to read, and I had a hard time reading sometimes. Like, I started reading the Confessions of St. Augustine on the plane ride home, and it just was giving me a headache, so I am not all the way through the Confessions yet. I've read bits and pieces all, through my college career, but I've never read the entire book front to back, and who knows if I will, because that one gives me a headache. This one didn't give me a headache. This one was just really wonderful. So this one, I do have a link to it in the description if you're interested, since I really enjoyed it, and I thought you guys might too. There are, I did share some quotes out of the book. I was taking some screenshots. I know they're on Twitter. They were on Snapchat for a bit too. There might be a few on Instagram. So I have links to those social networks in the description. And then I figured that I would answer questions if you had any questions you wanted me to talk about today. I know I've had some requests for another Liturgy of the Hours video to go through and talk about how to pray the Liturgy of the Hours, how to actually follow along with the guide so you know where to flip every day. Oh, awesome, William. I'm glad you found the Spanish translation. I knew there probably had to be one because George Weigel is pretty awesome. He's actually the papal bibliographer as well. He wrote the bibliography on Pope St. John Paul II, Witness to Hope. He's awesome. So this is a much easier to read one than that. Hello. Okay. So yes. So then I'm just going to open this up to questions now since I covered what I really wanted to talk to you all about today. Yes, Meraki, that will be very helpful to go through the Liturgy of the Hours really and talk about how to follow it with the guide because it gets confusing and I mess up sometimes too. I'm human. Everybody messes up sometimes when you pray the Liturgy of the Hours because it's not exactly the easiest prayer of the church to follow. In fact, it's decidedly difficult, especially on feast days and weekends. It just gets complicated sometimes. So if you have any other ideas, that'd be awesome to share. Or I'll hang out and see if there's any questions that come up before we call this a day. We'll say that I'm starting to get the apartment all figured out. There are still a lot of boxes behind this screen behind me. Milk crates, really, with lots of stuff in, and it's kind of a mess, so I figured I'd cover it up so you wouldn't have to look at my mess while we talk. Because this is probably one of the cleaner areas of the apartment at the moment. It's just, when you move, you end up with boxes everywhere for a bit, and that's okay. Okay, let's see if there's anything coming up. Okay, everyone. I think we're doing great. Okay. Well, thank you all for joining me. I guess I will see you all next weekend for a live stream. This time kind of works out for me right now, so maybe we'll do the same time again next week. I'm hoping that in the next few months I can figure out a set time and we'll just say this is going to be the time every week. to make it easier on me and everybody who wants to join in on these talks. If you have a different time you'd like to share, please share it either in the comments or in the chat box. If you're on the replay, share it in the comments if there's a specific time on a weekend that would work better, but I'm kind of really liking this time. It's okay, Brianne, if you don't get it this time. Sometimes I've been thinking about going a little later because at the church I go to, we have a 1 p.m. Mass. And if I go to 1 p.m. Mass, this would be the absolute earliest I would get home from that. So I'm thinking about maybe doing like an hour or two after this, but I don't want to make it too late type of a thing. So I haven't quite decided how I want to do things yet. So yes, it was nice to see all of you as well. Marcy, have a wonderful, beautiful Sunday. I'll be praying for you. Please pray for me. God bless.